quick note that we are awaiting an important event at the White House. US President Joe Biden is sitting down with the Emir of Qatar this hour. The main topic of conversation is the safety and security of the global energy supply and how Russian invasion of Ukraine might disrupt oil and gas flowing to Europe. We're going to bring you coverage of their comments as soon as it happens. Well, for now, I want to bring in CNN's business editor at large, Richard Quest, to discuss this a little bit further. Richard, obviously the US and Qatar have had a diplomatic relationship for some 50 years. But that relationship might become more crucial, right, should the Russian-Ukrainian situation escalate. Explain what's at stake in terms of the energy supply to Europe.
Well, first of all, the relationship between the US and Qatar is very deep on the military front. US forces are based there, as you'll remember, and were used and have been used in various military operations in the Gulf, in the Middle East, in the Gulf Wars. So, yes, there's certainly a huge linkage there. And the US sort of stood on the sidelines and tried to be the honest broker during the blockade from Saudi Arabia and others, which went on for several years. So a deep, long-lasting infrastructure of relationship. Now, put on top of that what's happening in Europe with liquid gas, liquid natural gas and oil, and you start to see where the US is going to look to Qatar to help fill any shortfall if Russia plays the energy weapon, which it easily could, thus cutting off up to a third of Europe's energy over the rest of the winter. So yes, Qatar will play a role, but not a huge one, Lynda, because Qatar's ability to increase exports to Europe is somewhat limited.
Yeah, and talk to us about those limitations. Where else could the US look if there's not enough supply from Qatar?
Well, I've got in front of me, I'm just going to look down if you'll forgive me, I've got the largest exporters of LNG, or liquid natural gas. Now, the US is actually the largest producer. So the first question is, well, hang on, US, why aren't you sending more? And that's all to do with the ability to have the refining facilities, where existing contracts, where most of the sales currently go, which is out west towards Asia. And then you've got Russia, which comes in. Then you've got Iran. Well, I can hardly see Iran rushing to the US or Europe's rescue when Russia is got its neck on the throat. And then you have Qatar, Canada and China. But the reality is, once we're getting down to those numbers, those other countries' capacity to make major increases is very small. And so the US will have to look itself at what it can send, and there's just not either the refining or the shipping capacity in the right place to send much of US LNG across to Europe. It takes too long anyway. And that's why Qatar does play a role, but I'm guessing that they're going to be disappointed. Oh, there'll be warm words, but I think the final result won't make much of a difference.
Yeah, we will check in and see how that meeting plays out this hour. Richard Quest, as always, good to have you with us.
Quest means business, top of the hour.
We'll tune in. Well,